Okay, so I just started recording. I just finished a run through of what Weavies is about, and we're about to start the session. If you have Tableau public or if Tableau desktop installed, you can please feel free to follow along on your computer while I show you how to use labels, tooltips, and views in tooltips. And if you have questions, just note it down. Let me share my screen. Okay. So we're going to start with labels. And what are labels and why do we use labels, right? Labels, this is a label. This data set is for Superstore. Superstore, if you've used Tableau before, downloaded Tableau, you'd see that the default data sets that comes with it is for a store called Superstore in America. It shows their profits, it shows their shipping, categories, sales, and all of that. So that's basically like context for this data. Yeah, you can see there's tables for orders, customer ID, customer name, shipping dates, segments, days to ship. There's a table for returns. You can see profit per order, profit ratio, and all of that information. But what we are focusing on today is, for example, you wanted to present a report to your team or to like senior management on how your shipping categories are doing, like what percentage of your orders are being shipped standard class or are being shipped second class or first class or same day delivery. Like for example, if you order from Amazon or whatever, right? Okay. So the reason why we use labels is to keep the main message of our story, right? But also have like additional context that would add the level of detail, right? So this is a viz that has labels in place, right? And let's walk through how we got here. To start with, if I pick, sorry, let me move this. Oh. Okay, so if I pick a new sheet, right, and we want to talk about, this is what Tableau automatically shows me. Shipping mode, right? This is first class, same class. And I want to see what percentage from my shipping mode. So let's go to profit. When you double click profit, you don't need to drag it into columns. Tableau does that automatically for you. And I want to see it in a bar chart. I use show me, right? And I filter at the top. Automatically, right? Tableau, if I pick labels here at the top, this T, it shows my labels here. By default, Tableau would label your marks with the primary measure in the row shelf, right? If you have a densely packed visualization, like maybe a packed bubble chart, then Tableau will selectively show some labels to avoid the labels being too clustered and overlapping with each other. We're going to get to that eventually, right? Okay, so we have this, right? When you compare this view to this view, which do you think is the better view? What would you can respond in the comments? What view looks better to look at visually? And what view stands out between this one that we just started with and our model view here? Feel free to unmute and or share in the chat box.
I think I prefer the first one because I can immediately just see, from the bars, I can tell that standard class is more, but I can immediately see how much more. So 57%, for example, and then I can see the price underneath. But the price doesn't mean anything. The actual profit doesn't mean anything on its own. But then because of the percentage, there's a sense of comparison and how much, proportion of that goes to the total profit.
Also, Akonde Adiola responded, the first one looks visually appealing, the bars are big and not clustered. Okay, so how do we get this our default view to look just like that, right? Let's fit the entire height into this view, right? Let's clear up the background. And so now we need to go to labels. So first things first, we want to add a table calculation where we have a percentage of our total, right? And we still want to add profits to the label. Okay, so now here we are, right? We have our total profits and then we have the percentage of our total profit. But even as the base, it still doesn't look like this. You can't immediately tell this is small, right? So what can we do? Remember I said here, when you click on this T at the top, I don't know if you can see it. It helps you show your mark labels. And then when you come to label here on the marks shelf, right, here is where you can do all your magic, right? You can also show mark labels here, right? And then here is where you select individually, okay, what this controls like the basic appearance of and formatting options of your label, right? You can change the font type, you can change the font size, make bold, put in italics, underline. You can also insert like any other, for example, we have percentage of any other measure or dimension that's in the view would show up here and you can add it to the view, right? So for example, if I take this away, if I remove the profits and I come here, sorry. Right, so we have our sum of profits and we have our percentage of total sum of profits, right? You can move this around. You can preview here, right? You can make this bigger. Let's make this 20. Let's change the color to, let's make it purple. Also, let's make it bold. Let's preview what it would look like. Apply, right? You can also change the color of the bar if you want, although we're not really talking about colors today, but it doesn't matter, right? So you can immediately see how we arrived at this particular view, right? And if you also want to make, for example, if I don't want to make the tooltip show, we'll still get to tooltips, right? When someone is viewing this and I present this, the person probably doesn't know what does $164,000 mean. What is that? Is it sales? Is it profit? Ideally, I could have stated it in my sheet here, in my sheet title, right? But you can also come to label here and add profit, apply, and it shows to the viewer that, okay, this is profit, this is what it means, right? To add that context to your views. So that's how we arrived at this view for labels. There's so much more. You can edit as much as you want, right? You can change, for example, you can change the font. Okay, that doesn't look good. Let's look for a nicer looking font, right? You can also make here, if you select match mark color, right? This overrides your any formatting you've done, right? So when you do that, your labels match the color of your bars. So that's just for you to know it automatically goes back. So there's a lot to do here. For alignments, you can move, if you want to move your numbers into the bar, or you want to move it to the middle, right? If you want to change direction of your labels, that's also possible. If you want to make it at the top, if you want to place it in the middle, if you want to place it at the bottom, that's where you do that. If it's longer and you want to do wrap text, like if you're using Excel or a spreadsheet, right? On and off. So that's there. For labels as well, you can also choose to show only the minimum and maximum numbers. When you do that, it shows only your minimum and maximum number, right? You can also choose to only view the labels when you select on the bar, right? Or when you highlight the bar, right? So that's pretty much it for labels. You have the freedom to play with it, right? Based on how finding the right mix and blend of labels for your viz depends on you ultimately, right? It's some bit of you take it's your artistic touch that you have to add to it, but you have the freedom to move to move to improve the quality of your viz, right? To add more context to your viz by using labels, right? So feel free to play with the formatting options as much as possible. Let me see if there's a question here. Okay, Toby was just responding. All right, so that's it for labels. Does anyone have questions at this time for labels? Or we can just move questions to the end so that we move very quickly. So let's go to tooltips, right? This is the distribution of profits across different states, right, for Superstore. This is merging tooltips and viz in tooltips, right? So when ideally, right, I'll walk us through how we got here, right? So the first things first. All right, this is what it looks like actually. When you click on a city, then you see the list. When you click on a state, you get to see the list of the profit ratio for all the cities in the state, right? So that's like diving deeper into what your current view is showing you, right? So how did we get here? Let's try and do that. So let's select states and remove profit into color, right? Let's increase the opacity so that it's blocked colors. Right, so we have this and we can see the country, the state, and the profits. So when you go to tooltips, this is what a tooltip is. The tooltip is what is showing the country region at United States, the state, Montana, the profit $1,833. When you edit tooltips here, you can choose to change what shows in your tooltip, right? You probably don't need to include that the region or the country is in the USA, right? So you can take that out. You can start this with in blah blah states, the total profit is, you can preview it, right? Just to be sure of what you're doing. So that's what it looks like. So you can see that we've changed the view from just saying states, profits, and from country, state, and profit. We've made it easier to look at. Like when you hover, you can see, you can read what's in the tooltip. In Montana, the total profit is this, right? For example, if you wanted to add, let's say profit ratio, right? You can just add that to the tooltip. What that does is I can now go to insert, right? And add profit ratio and say profit a profit ratio of right? Can you see that? You can also format this. You can make that a different color. Let's make it green. Right. Let's make it more. This is what it looks like. Right. You can make this, for example, make it, you can see that that increases the size of the particular um, measure that you've picked, right? So you can play around with all of these formatting options, right? So we can see in Montana this, in Washington total profit this with a profit of 24%. Okay, that's it for tooltips, right? You can play around tooltips as much as you want, right? You can also, for example, you can create groups right here. You can create groups, states, country, and region for groups there. So how do we get to these into, right? This is showing us the profit ratio by all of the cities. So how do we make that happen? So we need to create another sheet that is going to be the tooltip sheet, right? So let's pick our cities, right? And let's pick our profit ratio. Let's make it a bar chart. I want just city alone, so I'm going to take away the states. I also want from top to bottom. And let's move our profit ratio to color. And let's label our profit ratio. I can take this out since we already. I'm taking this bottom here. Sorry, I hope you can see that. I'm taking away this axis here because I already have my profit ratio at the label here, so there's really no need for me to do that anymore. So that's taking that away. Then in my tooltip, I already see the city here, so I don't want to see the city again in my tooltip. So I come here and I leave it as profit ratio, or I can just say profit ratio is right. So this is my tooltip. Let's name it tooltip profit ratio, right? What is our tooltip base? When you come to tooltip, right? Here at the insert option, you can insert multiple sheets into a tooltip, and that's how we get to where we are, right? What did I name it? Tooltip profit ratio. I can see my preview, right? And there we have it. One more thing. Let me go back here and remove city from this view. So because I didn't need for it to tell me that to list cities here because I can already see that it's cities. So there we have it. In Uttar, the total profit is this, and this is the list of all the cities in Uttar. You can also say, let's add the header so it's not confusing. Profit ratio by city in state. Or let's just make it profit ratio. So that is how we arrived at our V's in tooltips. Right, so just a brief recap. We started with labels. So one more thing about labels. Here is like a cluttered label situation going on. This looks very cluttered. you can come here, choose minimum and maximum for each of the views. Again, that's another example of how to use minimum and maximum, or all. And you can allow, there's also like allowing labels to overlap other maps if you want. But if you do that, it's very messy because you can see the labels are overlapping each other here. So you don't, right? So that's pretty much it. Recap, we talked about labels, how to format labels to your choice, right? So that you can add more context and make your visits more intuitive for the reader. And also how to build tooltips and visit tooltips. So we can keep questions to the end. And if you're following along, you may want to share what you've done at the end of the session as well. So that's it from me. I'll hand over to Zainab now to continue. Thanks, guys.
Hi, thank you, Abby. That was very insightful. I'm talking about editing aliases, replacing references, and parameter actions. If you are new to Tableau, this might sound like gibberish to you, so I'm just going to go through all of that now. Just trying to share my screen. Okay. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Cool. So I'm using a data I got from Makeover Monday. If you don't know what Makeover Monday is, it's a Tableau weekly challenge where a viz is posted and people get a chance to try to make it better and then share what they come up with. So this was about working from home, struggles and benefit of working from home. It's not a lot of data, so it just shows the benefit of remote work, struggles of remote work, and the percentages for struggles and for benefits. And that's what the data looks like. Thankfully, Abby has gone through, how to do a bar chart. So I'm not going to go through how I arrived at the bar chart. So let's assume that you already have the bar chart and this is what you have. And you thought along the way that collaborating or communication might be too wide. So for example, if you wanted to put that in a dashboard and your dashboard is just about this and you have and so let me just reduce that. So you have a couple of things, but you have this much space for your dashboard for this particular bar chart, right? And you think some of the text here is wordy and is a bit cluttered, and you want to edit the text from the data without actually changing the data. So what you can do is to edit the aliases. So aliases is like sort of like what you want to replace, what the original data is, what you want to replace it with. So to do that, you can come here, since struggles is what we are looking at, right click on that and edit aliases. It's just right there. And so it's going to pop up this page. And then what you can do is, so you can take collaborating and or communication and you can change that to maybe collaborating and communicate. So you might want to say, okay, communicating. I mean, you might want to put communicating or communication. You might want to do it all like adverbs, as you like anyway. And then different time zone from teams. So this might be a bit confusing. So you might want to change that to like, change that to whatever. So, but basically, this is how you edit alias. And then loneliness, you can add a bit more context. You can edit anything you like. Reliable Wi-Fi, you can change that to reliable internet because it's not everybody that uses Wi-Fi, staying motivated, etc. And then you can change that, edit that as you like. And so distractions at home, so you can just put distractions. So maybe not everybody's working from home, etc. And then when you click OK, you already immediately can see that what you have edited will just reflect anywhere, anytime you have to use struggles. So that is the first part with editing aliases and what it is. It's very, very helpful because sometimes you even have unclean data and there's some typos in the data, or you just want to communicate better. So editing aliases is something that you can just go to change whatever comes in data without actually altering the data itself. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're editing earlier. So now you have struggles of working from home. And if you're lazy like me, you want to do the benefit of working from home, but you don't want to have to start from scratch. One thing I do is, I do this a lot, I duplicate my tab and replace, so I want to replace struggles with benefits, right? But I don't want to have to go through everything. So what you can do is you can right click on struggles here and come to replace references. And so it will bring this pop-up again. And I want to replace that with benefit of remote work. And then, okay. And you can see that automatically it just changed everywhere there's struggles, it changed it to benefit of remote work. And I can also do this for the percentage. So now we currently have the struggles percentage, and I want to replace that with this percentage is actually for the benefit. So I want to replace that with percentage. And I do okay. And automatically it changes this everywhere. And this is particularly helpful when you have a dashboard with and you've used the same data to create 20 different types of charts. You can't go to every single chart to change or struggles or benefits. All you have to do is to just replace reference, and it changes it every single way you have used it before. And then you can see that in the previous chart as well. All the reference, everywhere we had struggles now shows up as benefit, which was what we want. So those are the first two. And the last sort of thing I want to show is parameter actions. I would just actually create, show you a new page. So this is again, a Makeover Monday data set, and it shows UK visits abroad. So I've created a line chart, nothing too fancy. So I just put the date field in the columns and the visits in the sum, and I made it a line chart here. Now, I'm just going to show you the source of the data. So it comes from a UK, the UK government, one of their websites, and it shows up like this, where you have frequency, and the frequency you can choose to either view the data by month, quarter, or year. And you can also choose to view just past 10 years, past 5 years, and you can do a custom year. We're not going to worry about that. And you can choose to see all of it. So I saw this trick. Andy Kubera is a very popular person. He has videos on Tableau, and he actually replicated his chart, and it had just this month, quarter, year, and the time period as well. I thought it would be cool. So I'm just going to show you how you can do this with parameter and parameter actions. So the first thing is we have this chart, right? With Tableau, with date, so date is hierarchical. So what that means is that you have year, month, you can have year, quarter, month, day, hour, time, hour, minute, seconds, depending on how the data is. So you can choose quarter here and it updates, and you can select month and it updates. But how do we do this with parameters? I'm just going to create a new parameter. So you can do that by coming here, create parameter, and we're going to call this frequency. And we want it to be a string. And list. So okay, let me just start over again. Before I show you that, when you double click on this year, you can see this formula. So you have date trunk, year, date. And when it's quarter, you'll notice that it's exactly the same type of formula, but it's quarter. So the only changing part is this part. So it can either be year, quarter, or month. So we are going to create a parameter with year, quarter, month, which those are the variables that are changing. So let's just start over again. Frequency, we want a string, which is text. And allowable values, we'll just create year. I want the year to show up as yearly, so I'm just going to edit that, display as. And we want quarter, and I want that to show up as quarterly. And then month, and I want that to show up as monthly. Cool. I'm going to show parameter, make it single value list, and then I can click, but nothing is happening yet because we haven't actually added it to the chart. So how do we do that? First, I'm going to create a calculated field, and I'm going to call this dates, but let me just call it TC date. So TC is table calculation date. It's actually not a table calculation, but let's just use TC date for now. And what we want is this particular formula here. I'm going to copy it and paste it here. But instead of quarter, we want whatever we choose from the parameter. So instead of quarter, I'm going to replace that with the parameter that we created, which is a frequency parameter. And then click OK. Cool. So if I drag this new date that we created into columns and I remove this one and I make this exact date, okay. Now when I click yearly, quarterly, month, oh, well, that was supposed to be monthly. Sorry, let me just edit that. So, monthly. Cool. So when I click yearly, quarterly, month, I don't know why it's not working, but I'm just going to ignore it for now. Actually, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm just going to, I think I didn't do, okay. Monthly. Okay. Oops. Okay, just going to ignore it for now. So yearly, quarterly, and monthly, it updates as required. And now the second thing that we want to do is for the time period. So we have all years, last 10 years, last 5 years. Okay, cool. So the logic for this is to say, so we're currently in 2020. If I want last 10 years, I want to say 2020 minus 10, which is 2010, and I want to get everything from 2010 up until now. So to create that, I need to do 2020 minus 10 or 2020 minus 5 for past 5 years. And for all the data set, I just need all. So I'm going to create a parameter for that. I'm going to call that time period. But this time we want it to be an integer. So I'm just going to click integer, a list again, pretty much the same process. So the first value is 10, and I want that to show up as last 10 years. Next value is 5, and I want that to show up as last 5 years. And for all, the year is, we have 1989. So I'm just going to put 300 years because I don't think we have up to 300 years in data sets. So 300 years, that should cover all. I'm just going to make that show up as all. Cool. And then, okay. Let's show that parameter, make it a list. Nothing is happening yet. So we need to create a calculated field for time period. So what this does is, so the condition is we want to check if the current year we are is greater than the calculation. So let's say we are in 2020, we want to check if 2020 is greater than 2010. If it's greater than 2010, it should return everything. So I'm going to do year for the year for the TC date, greater or equals to. So we need to check the maximum data that we have, the maximum year we have. And for that, I'm going to do a max year of TC date. I have to specify year again because dates are hierarchical. So I need to specify the part I need, which I need the year. So that's why I'm putting year date. And so this would return the maximum year. And I want to do the maximum year minus 10 or 5, and I'll get that from the parameter I created, which is the time period parameter. So just to recap on this calculation, this part of it is taking the maximum year in the entire table, in the entire data set, and subtracting it from time period, which is whatever we pick here. So let's say 10 or 5 years. And then it would compare it to the year from the data set and return a true or false. This is going to return a Boolean. So I'm just going to do okay. Drag time period into filter, and I want that every time is true. So yeah, so now when I click time period, It's showing, last 10 years, starting from 2010, 2020, cool. Last 5 years, 2015, and all is returning everything. So that is, now we have frequency and time period. We've done that using parameters. And so a recap before I move on to the next stage, we create the parameters, create a calculated field with, what we want to do with the parameters, and then add that to the chart or to the filter as required. And then that works. So I can click quarterly. Cool. So now how do we use parameter actions to make it look something like what we have on the website? I'm going to create a dashboard, and I'm going to drag the sheet we have just created into the dashboard. I'm just going to reduce the width and the height of the dashboard because we don't need all that space. Cool. So we need yearly, monthly, but the thing with filters is, with this parameter is there's only so much editing that we can do to make it look like this. So, I mean, I can only just like edit the colors, the alignment and stuff like that. So we actually need to create our own labels. And so I'm just going to create a new sheet, call that sheet labels. And I want monthly, yearly, quarterly. So I'm going to create a calculated field, do the year label, and call that yearly. And for, just repeat that 3 times for the quarter and month. And call this quarterly. I hope my spelling is right. Okay, call that quarterly. And the last one for the month label, and call that monthly. Cool. Now I want those to show up this particular type of way. So it's showing up on the column. So I'm just going to create a 0 point. So this is a cool trick I learned. I can't remember where I learned it from. So if you just add 0 here, Tableau would create a sort of like a line thing, and it's just going to be smack on 0. And I'm just going to duplicate that, do that 3 times for each label. 0. Cool. So here we have the chart type is showing up as a bar. I want all of that to be a text. For the first text, we want the year label. So I'm going to drag the year label into text here. For the second one, we want the quarterly label. I'm going to drag that into text. And for the last one, we want the month label, and I'm going to drag that into text. Cool. I'm going to hide this header. And I don't like this line that's showing, so I'm just going to do a little bit of quick formatting and remove all 0 lines. Okay, remove grid lines and 0 lines. Cool. So now we have yearly, quarterly, monthly. So let's go back to our dashboard. I'm going to let me just drag this here and put the label here. Just hide the title for a quick second. Oops. Sorry. And then it's too wide, so I'm just going to, do something like that. I'm trying to get to here, but my screen, how do I minimize? Okay, sorry, let me just minimize this. Oops. Sorry, I want to do something, but the Zoom heading is getting in my way. So I want this to be entire view. Cool. So I can make that big again. So now I'm going to add a little bit of inner padding to this just to give that more room. So maybe 20. Yep. I'm actually going to make that smaller. Okay. Maybe we do 10. Cool. And I'm going to give a background of like a slightly lighter background. Remove the padding here. So now we have something similar. I'm not going to do for the time for the time period, because it's literally the same steps, we have something similar to what is there. You can edit this as you like, you can go away on formatting. But when we click on quarterly, yearly, monthly, nothing happens. So how do we fix that? Like it's not updating. So if we click on it here, it updates the chart, but clicking on it here doesn't update the chart. So we need to fix that. So let's go back to the sheet. So what we need to do is we need to replicate the parts that we created for the parameters, that's the year, the month, and quarter based on the formula. So we need to create calculated fields, and I'm just going to call this year, and I'm going to call that year. And then for month, a month, and create another one for quarter. And I'm going to call that quarter. Cool. Now for the year, I'm going to drag year into the detail. For the other one, I'm going to drag, I think this is for quarter, so I'm going to drag quarter into detail. And for month, I'm going to drag that into detail. Cool. So now we would use a parameter action to make this work. So back in the dashboard, we have to come here on that dashboard, click on actions, and we want to add a change parameter action. So we have to do it for year, quarter, month. Yeah, I know, but it's what it takes. So we want year, and we want it to run this on the labels sheet, which is the affected sheet. And the target parameter is the frequency. And the field for year is the year. This one, not the label, the year that we have just created. And we do okay. So let's just see if that works. Yeah. So clicking on yearly updates that if I click on quarterly, nothing happens here because I haven't done it for quarterly. So go back to actions and then follow exact same steps, but do for quarter and month. So time period. So the quarter here, we have this, and run that on the label sheet because that's the target sheet. And then last one for month on the label sheet, the target parameter is the frequency, and we have month. Cool. Actually, I think I made a mistake here. The target parameter here should be frequency. Yeah, cool. Okay. So now when we click yearly, quarterly, monthly, it updates just fine. And I mean, Tableau is doing this annoying thing where when I hover on top of it, we have the tooltip. We don't want that. So to remove the tooltip, I can come here, worksheet, tooltip, and then toggle this off. And so now we don't have any tooltip. Cool. And the final thing, now we don't need this anymore because this does exactly the same thing. Delete that container. The final thing is the blue highlight that is popping up can be a bit annoying because it doesn't feel seamless. So to remove that is a really cool hack that I learned, is to trick Tableau into feeling like it's doing something when you click where it's actually not doing anything. So we are going to create a dummy field. Call that dummy, and I'm literally just going to put dummy there. It could be any string. And I'm going to add that as a detail to this label. So just add that as a detail. Come back here, and then again, actions. So this time around, it's not a parameter action, but it's a filter action. So we're just going to do remove highlight. And the target is the dashboard labels, and this should be labels. And we want to run it on select. So when we select it, we want to remove the highlight. And this selected field here, then add filter dummy, and you can replace this target field with any string field. So I'm just going to choose month label. I could choose quarter label, anything, and do okay, and then okay. So now the highlight is gone. There are so many other different tricks you can do, like maybe you want to change the color of the one that is selected, etc. But that's a lot of, it's is above the scope of this particular session. But yeah, I hope, I mean, you've learned something about parameters and parameters action. I know it might be a bit advanced for people that are not used to Tableau, but it's good to know that you can do something like this with Tableau, and then at the back of your mind, you have a reference and you know, oh, parameter actions can make this happen. And hopefully, if you don't remember what I've just said, you would find other sources on the internet. But yeah, this is like how you can replicate something like this website action here with Tableau. And I mean, that ends my session. If you have questions, of course, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Zainab. That was interesting. Okay, I think Simi is up next. If anyone is following along, at the end of the session, right, you can just share what you've done along with the class. We can have like 2 people share for anyone that's following along. Okay, Simi, you're up.
Yeah, I feel like I need to like go back and watch. I feel like I just learned from Zainab too, because I think at some point even I was like, oh my god, what's happening right now? But anyways, we'll come back to it.
I'll share the recording.
Yeah. So hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Simi, and so what I will be covering today is sorry, I think I'm on the wrong dashboard. I'm on the wrong view. Okay, yeah. So I'll be covering like basically dashboard and stories. Learning how to. I'm going to take you guys through how you can like resize your dashboard, and just like some of like little tricks that I've learned here and there from working with dashboards. So yeah, basically a dashboard is like a collation of like different sheets that you worked on in on a Tableau, on Tableau basically. So this is like a viz that I did a long time ago. Well, not that so long, maybe like 2 months ago. So it was just basically about female gender mutilation in Tanzania. I think this was what I published. So basically, like if you look at it, this is like really long. Well, not really long, but it's longish, right? Because I wanted to like put like different information all in one view. So yeah, so I wanted to just take us through how you can basically resize your dashboard, and like, and so in case you want to like add multiple items. So let's just start a fresh dashboard. So when you create sorry, this is a sheet, not a dashboard. Let me delete this. All right. So this button right here, the first square, is for creating dashboards, right? So when you create a dashboard, this is the first view that you see. So you're saying so then all of the sheets that you've created before now, they're all listed here, and like all the objects and everything. So there are 2 ways to it. You can either resize your dashboard. If you have an idea of who your audience is and who you're presenting to, you could have like the size preset before you start like dropping all the sheets into it. So there's the default sizing, which is right here, but you could also do font sizing. So if you know that the audience you're creating for, they're going to view this sheet on their phone, you can edit the layout from here. So this is like device preview. So basically you can, you see like device types, device type comes up here. You can then select what kind of device it's going to be. It's going to be a phone, it's going to be a tablet. It's like it changes. If it's going to be a desktop, then it comes back to default. Then I'm just going to, so even when you pick a phone, it shows like different phone models. Is it an iPhone 7, iPhone, Samsung, is it Google Pixel? And also for tablets, you could also like select the type of tablets that you want it to show. But for now, I'm just going to stick to defaults. Also in terms of sizing, so let's take a look at it here. Let me add multiple sheets onto this, so we can see right now that like as I'm dragging all this sheets onto it, everything is coming in, but it's basic, it's lumped together, right? It's all of this is not making sense, and that's because the size, like it sets it, it's default. So what I'm going to do now is to create another size. So what I'm going to, so here it is, when you click on size here, you can see the range. You can do a fixed size. You can do make it automatic, so that as you're dropping your sheet onto it, dashboard is automatically resizing itself. And you can also create a range. So that is where you like really have the freedom to do what you want. So you can set the minimum size of the width. So you can increase the width. So you can see as I'm increasing the width right here, it's increased. I'm able to move more. And also I can increase the height. As I'm increasing the height, you can see that I have more freedom to move around here. So that's it for sizing the dashboard. So when you're dragging sheets onto the dashboard, you can either do it tiled or floating. So when it's tiled, let me show you what it looks like when it's tiled. So now I've dragged one sheet onto the dashboard, like everything is in that view. This is the sizing, right? So everything is in that view. If I drag another one, it's automatically going to just like place it. Then I can also choose to like where I want, as in determine where right is I want to put it, and it's right here. Arrival at the safe house. So you can just like also basically move it around on how you want it to look. But if it's for floating, when you click on floating, what happens is it doesn't automatically size. It just comes onto the dashboard the way you place it, right? So it's right here. You can then like move it around. I can drag type of cases. So you can just basically determine how you want your sheets to look, or how you want your data to look on the dashboard. You can move it around. Also, you can just like drag all the additional objects that are available on the dashboard. So you can add additional text, edit the text. I'm just like writing rubbish basically. You can edit the fonts and just like place it anywhere. So if you look at this here, that is basically what I did. I used text for this. You can also add image. So this right here, they are images. Well, image. This one is an image with a link. So you can also like add a URL to your image. So if you look at this place, I added like some text here. So yeah, that's basically it for dashboards. You can also sort of edit, you can do like formatting on dashboards. You can still come here too and like do like the device layouts. You can choose to format your dashboard. So you can change the heading of the dashboard. There's no heading here because I hid it because I wanted this to show, so you would not see it. But let me show you a dashboard that has heading. No, I think I created a fresh one here. Okay, I think I hit the heading for all of them. But yeah, basically that's it for dashboards. You can just learning how to resize your dashboard to fit whatever it is that you want to do. So just to recap, you can do a fixed size. Even for the fixed size, you can also have like a custom fixed size. So there are all of these options. If you want it to be a desktop browser, a laptop browser, a blog, a column, a PowerPoint, story, you can basically do all of those things. So yeah, that's it for dashboard resizing. Then I'll quickly go to stories. So what is a story? What is Tableau story? It basically allows you, as it says, tell a story of like a set of data, right? So let's looking at this V's that I've created before. It was for hope for girls and women in Tanzania, or female gender mutilation, and like I have all of this in one view. However, what if I decide that I don't want to have all of this information in one view? I want to tell a story instead, right? So let me show you this story that I created. I don't know what I just said. Okay. So yeah, if you look at this other views, I put it here. When did the girls arrive? Who brought her in? What were their needs on arrival? The health status, the type of cases, and all of these things. So coming here now, and if you want to create a story, this is the very last icon here, which is sort of like a book. All right. So I've created a story here, right? So instead of having everything in one view, and each story has its own caption. So I just basically said, when did the girls arrive at the safe house? Who brought them in? You can see here the police brought them. This police was the highest number of people who brought them in, followed by volunteers, or she came herself. What were the most common cases? So like why didn't they receive? There's FGM, which is female gender mutilation. What were their health status on arrival? So basically, I'm telling a story with this story. I don't know, get the point. But yeah, so let me just show us how you can create a story. So I'm just going to do it afresh. So when I click on this icon, this is basically what you see. Same thing as with dashboards, you can create the size that you want. So you could do a fixed size, you could do a range, you could do automatic. So I'm just going to stay with fixed size, right? So I can also edit. So right now, this is just that I can edit the height to be whatever it is that I want it to be. I can edit the width. So when you want to create a story, all of the sheets that you've created are listed here. And the cool thing with Tableau is you can sort of have a preview when you over each of these stories. So you can sort of gauge, if you are confused as to which one is which one, you can just sort of gauge which is which. All right. So I'm just going to start with arrival at the safe house. So I dragged it here. Basically, like when did the girls arrive? Now you see that there is this box here that says add a caption. So once you double click on it, I can then say, I can type in like when did the girls arrive at the safe house, right? And I put that there. Then if I want to add the next one, so what I did here, so when did they arrive? Who brought her into the safe house? Then I come back here. Then I just sort of, oh, okay. Then I can see here, oh, who brought her in? And so you're basically dragging it. So I dragged it on just beside this. You can see that there are two arrows or two icons that show that I drop it. So it automatically, like, yeah, it brings this in. So then I'll then put in here who brought her in. So I can either choose to drag, or I can just click on blank. And when I click on blank, it automatically creates a new sheet for me, right? And I can just like drag another one here. So aside sheets, you can also add in dashboards, but you can only have one dashboard in a story. You can't have multiple dashboards in one story. So there's this dashboard that we've created now, and I dragged it onto this place. If I want to drag another dashboard and put it here, oh, it works. That was not what I learned, but I never tested it. Anyways, that's my bad. All right, so apparently you can have multiple dashboards, but yeah, you can also have like dashboards on a story. In this case, I don't need to have a dashboard because well, I don't need it. Like all of the information I have is going to be on the story anyways. So you can delete with this this here, with the delete button here. Once you over it, you can sort of like edit. You can the heights of the captions. You can also you can resize it. So if you think that it is too small, you can sort of do like a resizing. You can add additional text when you're creating a story. So let's say I want to add some extra text here to show on my story. I'll just put in extra text, and I can just like have it around. Let's say I want to just add in some additional information without going to the sheet itself to make those changes. Also, in terms of layouts, so right now you can see these boxes here that where I've put in all this information. So I can either choose caption boxes, I can choose numbers, that is I just want to show 1, 2, and 3. I can choose dots, whereby it's just like showing dots. I can choose arrows, whereby I can just like move around like this. So showing 3, like there are only 3 sheets in the story. Let me go back to caption box. I can decide to remove these arrows down at both ends. So instead of like having all these arrows, I'll just like have all of this here. So that's it for making like editing the layouts. Now, if I decide that I want to format the text within this, within the caption boxes, if you go up here and click on story and click on format, so it allows you to do all that formatting that you want. So I can change the shading of the entire story right? I can decide to, so you can see it's changed to blue. The background, like this sheet is still white because like that was the sheet I dragged into, but the entire background is still has been changed to another color. So I can change it to any color I want. I can, the title, which is this year, you can rename the title to FGM, like you can rename it to anything that you want it to be. You can change the alignment. So in this case, I want it centered. You can choose to also like give it its own shading. You can let it have its own border if you want it to have like a border. You can do all of that. For the navigator, which is this, I can change it. So this is how you change the font. So I come here, I click on Tableau bold. I can change the color to, let's say, red. I can also change the shading. Instead of this gray thing, I can change it to, let's say, match the V's that I'm working with. Okay, sorry, purple and red do not go well together. So I'm just going to change it back to white. And also for text objects. So if I had like a text in here, that's how I would also like edit the text in it. So yeah, that's it for stories. That's how you format. You can also like present button is here. Allows you just like present the story. So you brought her in. I'm not even touching this. I'm just touching like my next button on my desktop. So who brought her in? When did the girl arrive? Who brought her in? And like what were their health status on her arrival? So yes, that is it. You can also you can choose to hide the title if you want. So if you don't want to have any title, you can choose to do that. And yeah, also you can duplicate a particular story point. So let's say this brought in out, I can just like basically duplicate it here. And you can replace. So I could just like, if I want to replace, I just drag another viz onto it and then I replace what it looks like. So I think that's it for me. Just think, yeah, so that's it for me. And so just to highlight, right, I think something I should mention is like stories are not doesn't allow you, it's not as interactive as dashboards, in the sense that when you're on a dashboard, you can like come in here and like do like different things. You can like change, like you can add filters, you can view too, but like you can do like so many other things. But when you're on a stories do not allow you to do any of that, right? You can just, you know, maybe point, view data. If you want to edit anything on a sheet, you have to like, and you want to change something on a sheet when you're creating a story, you have to go directly into the sheet to make that change. You can't do it from the story. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. If you have questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Simi. That was interesting. Someone was responding in chats like Tableau totally replace PowerPoint presentations. Pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, our final teacher for today, Dolapo, is up.
Hi guys.
Hi, Dolapo.
On my screen. With the things that I've seen the other people talk about, I feel like mine is like very trivial, relatively. Like you guys really went above and beyond, and like the things I want to talk about are actually pretty simple. Marks, then groups and sets. Basically, yeah, marks help us add more detail to the visualization. So there's also a name that I like to call them visual encoders. Yes. So basically, if you have a visualization that's showing two variables, for instance, and you want to add another variable to it, or you want to add two other variables to it, marks help you. Can you hear me? I'm not even sure if anybody can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, cool. So marks help you to add more detail, basically. That's literally the goal of marks. So we can see this marks card here that has automatic color, size, text, detail, tooltip. I know Abby already talked about tooltip, I think. Yeah. So I'm just going to show us some of the ways that we can use marks to add more detail. But first, let me just talk about the different options that are there. Color definitely, as the name implies, helps to use color to add more detail to whatever you already have. Then size, same thing, shape, same thing. So if you have like a data set with different points, and then say the data represents male and female people, like you can use shape to distinguish between which one is male and which one is female. Detail does not do anything to the visuals, but it just allows you to bring in another field to increase granularity. I'll show what that means. And the label just adds text to each of the points. So let's start with, so this data set that I have is the same global superstore data set that Abby used, I think. Abby, you used global superstore, right?
Yes, I use Superstore.
Okay, cool. So let's start with color. Yeah. So I want to show so let me describe data set a little bit. It's basically a store that sells products across the world. There are different countries. Their products are grouped into categories, and then under each category there are subcategories. So first thing I want to do is show the profits for each category. So I want, I could do a visualization that would show the profits over time overall for the company. But now I want to see how profits have changed over time per category. So let's see how that will look. So order dates is the field that contains time or dates. So let's put order dates on columns, and then profits rows. So by default, this is what I get. I get a graph that shows profit on the y-axis and years on the x-axis. But I want to break this date down to months. I don't want it to just be years. So there's a plus button on when you have a field that has a time factor, that has dates, and can be broken down like year, month, quarter, week, day. So there's usually this plus. So it's called a hierarchy. You can create manual hierarchies by yourself as well. So if I click on this plus now, we're going to see that it has broken the year down into quarter. But the way these quarters are, it's showing, instead of it to show, what I really want is for it to show the trend from 2011 to 2012 to 2013 to 2014, as opposed to showing them as different graphs. So that's because why this is happening is because the dates field is seen as discrete and not continuous. So that I just wanted to show that. So if we take it back, if I click on this minus beside year, it goes back to year, and then we can change it to continuous time by just clicking this small triangle here. Then you can see that when you look down, you can see year, quarter, month, day, and then year, quarter, month, day. So the first set represents discrete, and then the ones down are continuous. So this is what I want, continuous month. So when I click on month here, you can see how it has changed the way the graph is looking. It's no longer showing each year or each month or each quarter as separate. It's joining from 2011 to 2015. So now the goal here is to see how profit has changed over these years from 2011 to 2015. And this is showing us that, but we want to now see it per category. We don't want to just see it lumped together. We want to see different categories. So if I put segments in color, so you see that we can now see 3 different graphs. So one graph has become 3 different graphs, with each one showing one segment. So 3 segments, they have consumer, corporate, and home office. So you can see that we've used color to add like this detail or this context into our visualization that we would not have otherwise had. So you can, if you want to edit the colors, you can click the color box here and edit colors. So you can basically select from a number of color palettes that already exist and then change the colors as you want to fit into whatever you're trying to do. But this is just an example of how we can use color to add more detail. So let's check out size. That's another one. So let's say we want to check out profit made and quantity sold per country. So this data is aggregated on a product level or on a product sold level, but we want to see it on a country level. So we wanted to have 1 point for each country that we have. So we'll change the aggregation to country. But let's start. So we want profit and quantity. So profit here, quantity here. So yeah, this is what I was saying about aggregation. So by default, Tableau aggregates measures. So instead of having several thousands of points here showing each sale that was made, the profit and quantity, profit made and quantity sold for each of the sales that we made, we just have 1 single point that is an aggregation of everything. And we want this thing to be on a country level. We don't want the sum total of every single sale across all the countries. So first, let's change this to average, measure average, just because I want to use average, not because it has anything to do with size or marks. So I wanted to show the average quantity and average profit per country. So here we're going to use size and we're also going to use detail. If we drag country into detail, you can see that there are now several points on the graph with each one representing a single country. So this is Slovenia, this is Chad, this is, I don't know how to pronounce that country. This is Portugal. And then for each of the countries, you can see the tooltip is showing you the average profit and average quantity. But now we want to be able to use size to tell us, to compare the discounts in each of these countries, and then tell us just by looking at it, which countries had, did we give the most discounts and which countries do we give the least discount. So what we'll do is just drag discount into size. But let's change this to average as well for consistency. Yeah. So now we can see that each of the countries has the points has a different size for each country. You can see the very big ones. You can see Lithuania, and then you can see the tiny ones. So on the right side, you see this legend that shows what the discounts represent. And these numbers should represent percentages. So in these very large, the ones that have very large circles, it's actually a discount of 0.7. That's 70% discount, 60% discount. So this basically shows what level of discounts we have in different countries. So this way we've been able to use size to add that level of detail. But it's interesting because we actually can combine different marks at the same time. So let me see, is there a way we can use color here in this specific example? I don't think I use color in this specific example, but definitely, I just wanted to point out that you can use more than one mark at the same time. Let's look for another one where we can use shape. Let's just plot discount versus quantity. Discount versus quantity. So if you don't want it to aggregate, you know, for the last one that I did, I used country. I just dragged country into detail. So it breaks down per country. But now I want to see all the points. I don't want it to aggregate on a country level. I don't want it to aggregate at all. I want to be able to see every single transaction that was done as a point on this graph. You can go to analysis and then click on aggregate measures, uncheck the checkbox. And now you can see discount and quantity. So for shape, what I want to do is drag category into shape. So I want to use shape to show me what category that sale is falling into. So I drag category into shape, and then you can see that from the legend here, you can see the circles represent furniture, square represents office supplies, and plus represents technology. Oh, I see why. It's actually for some of the points, it's combining two different shapes, and that's because discount is discrete. Let me not use discount. Let me use profit instead. Yeah, this gives a better view. So you can see that every single point you have here represents a transaction or a sale. So all the ones that are plus is a sale that falls under category technology. The squares are office supplies and the circles are furniture. So that's another way of using marks. So we've learned how to use detail. So detail just breaks down the aggregation that you currently have to a level that you want, depending on the field that you drag inside, but it doesn't necessarily add any visual effects, or it doesn't make any visual changes. Color helps you basically use color to add more detail to your graph. Shape helps you use different shapes, and then size as well. But one thing to note would be that for each of these visual encoders or mark types, there are the kinds of data that would be ideal for each of them. So for shape, for instance, it makes sense to use shape with categorical data. So like category, literally in this case, furniture is a certain shape, office supplies is a shape, technology is a shape. If you try to use shape with numerical data that's not discrete, so data that can have 20.5, 20.6, 20.7, it means there are an infinite number of potential values that each point can take on. And we don't have an infinite number of shapes. So that's inappropriate. You should use shapes with something that is definite, and a variable that a categorical variable that does not have too many categories. For size, you can actually use size with numerical data, like what we did here, where it just approximates the different values that you have in the field and then creates different sizes for them. Like you can see here, 0.0, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.7. So you can actually use color as well. You can use numerical data with color, but it will mean that you would be using hues of the same color, or you'll be using a what's this thing called, like a graduated scale of colors. So you can have blue on one end and red on the other end, and the center is like neutral. So if something is positive, it's going to be blue. The more positive it is, the bluer it will be. The more negative it is, the redder it will be. So that's a way of using color for like numerical values. But all in all, I think the only one we haven't explored really is label. And label really just, let me see. Label really just adds text to each of the points. So if we have something like discount here and subcategory, I did many, okay, and subcategory, and we want to find out quantity. If you drag quantity to label, so this is literally what label does, just adds texts and it labels each of the points. So I think someone already showed that earlier. So basically, all in all, that's what marks can do for you. You can combine marks, you can use more than one, and you can use them to add more detail to your visualization. I think the next thing I'm gonna talk about is groups. I have groups and sets to talk about. Groups and sets are interesting because they actually are sort of similar in a way, but not exactly the same thing. So, but they are both Tableau's methods to group data together. Groups are basically, you have, say you have a list of countries or you have a list of products and you want to group them into, you have a list of countries and you want to group them into regions, for instance. So let's say your countries, you just have a list of countries, you don't have like continents, and you want to say put all the African countries into a group and call it Africa, put all the European countries and call it Europe. So you can create a group you can create groups that will do that. So groups, you can create different groups. Don't have limits in terms of how many groups you can have and how many categories you can have in one group. Unlike sets where it's binary. So it's like you give a condition and something either falls in a set or outside of the set. The same way we have two Venn diagrams that there's an intersection. So it's either in the set or it's outside the set. That's how sets work. But groups, you can have multiple categories. So let's do something around groups. There are two ways to create groups. You can create from the view. You can also create by using the field itself on the pane by the left that has a list of all fields. But the first one we'll do will be from the view, from the data view itself. So let's plot quantity against profits. Let's aggregate by country by dragging country into detail. Change to averages. Okay, so you can actually literally create the group from the view by highlighting what you want to be in the group. So from this visualization, if you were doing like machine learning, for instance, you might, or whatever application that you're using, whatever reason why you're creating your visualization or doing your analysis, you might consider this area of the graph, this area that I can see. You can see that there's actually sort of a clear distinction between this area and the area on the right. So if you were trying to group this, if you were trying to group all the points here, all the countries here into one category, then you would be creating a group. So you can right click. You see, once you right click, you see the keep only, exclude, group members, create a set. So keep only basically means you want to keep only these points that you have highlighted. It's going to remove all the others. Exclude means you want to exclude these points you've highlighted. It's going to keep all the others. And then create a group basically means that you want it to note that all these points you've highlighted belong together in one group, and you now name the group. So you can see this pin button, click on it, then it creates a group. You can see country group. So now all these countries that are together here are now in this group. And you can use the group in other analysis you're going to be doing. So you can see that it creates them like the countries and then other. So other represents the countries that don't fall into that group that you're in, that you have, that don't fall into the group that you've created. So you can also create groups from these fields themselves. So if you go to, let's go to country. This can literally be any field. If you go to country, you click on the small triangle beside country, and you see create, I see group here. So so these are this is a list of all the countries under the field country. So you can actually like highlight. So let's just create random groups. So you can hold control, highlight this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Click on group. You can name it as maybe the A group. Okay, so that has created one group. Then let's go to 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Click on group, the B group. And then you can see this option that says include other. It just means that if you check include other, it's just saying that you have two groups now, the A group, the B group, and then you have a bunch of other countries that don't fall into either of the groups. So if you click on include other, it's going to create another group or another set or another category within the group called other that will now contain all the other countries. So if you check, let's check include other. Press OK. So this is it now. This is the group that we just created. And then we can rename it to be new group. Then let's take all these things out and let's see what so this is new group, right? New group has 3 elements, the A group, the B group, and then other. Let's use color to let it show us those 3 elements. So if we drag new group into color, so you can see that there are 3 different sets of colors based on, so the 5 countries that we put in the A group are blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 countries we put into the B group are orange. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then all the other countries that we didn't put in any group are other. So those are the two ways that you can create groups with. So you can create quickly by just, selecting in the view, or you can create more methodically by going to the field and actually creating that way. So, but at the end of the day, groups, now this group that we have created, this new group, this new, categorization of the countries can help you in more analysis you are doing. So imagine the countries didn't come with regions or continents, and you wanted to do that manually, or you have another case entirely. Maybe you have a bunch of products and you want to categorize them into this kind of products, this kind of products, this kind of products. You can use groups to do that. So as opposed to sets, which we are going to be going into now. So sets are similar in that you can actually, it's still categorization or like grouping of data, but one interesting thing about sets is that they can be dynamic in that when you create the group, you are literally handpicking the elements of the group, and those elements stay forever. Like that's how the group remains. But for a set, you can actually give a condition, and then it's just whichever ones that fall in that, that fall into that condition or requirements that you have set that will be in the set, and the ones that don't to be outside the set. And if anything changes in the data, a particular data point can leave the set or enter the set based on. So if you have, for instance, if you have data that's real time, that's updating or something across maybe different countries, and a country, maybe you create a set to group your countries into profitable countries and loss-making countries. And if a country that was formerly loss-making suddenly becomes profitable, it will actually change. The country will change positions in the set. But if you created a group, because you have handpicked and fixed what would be in the group and what would be in the other category in the group. So if you had done profitable and loss-making and you put the country in profitable, that's where, if you update the data or you do anything to the data, that's where it would be, as opposed to a set where you can create a condition, and the moment that element in the data stops meeting that condition or requirement, it goes to where it belongs. So that's the actual core difference between a group and a set, that sets are more dynamic. So let's create a set with products that we have based on how much profit they're making. So let's go to product name, click the triangle, then you see create a set. So now I'll ask you to name the set. So let's name the set bad products. As I said earlier, sets are binary in that an element either falls inside a set or outside of it. So that's why we're calling it bad products, because condition we're going to give would be the condition for bad products. So the ones that fall into the set would be bad products. The one that fall out would be not bad products, so good products. So that's how sets work. So there are different ways you can create sets. You can create sets from, so it's split into general, condition, and top. So you can create sets from general. You can select from a list and then handpick the elements you want to be in the set, which would be similar to creating a group. Then condition, which is the most interesting to me, is you can create sets by giving a condition, and then it checks for whichever element meets that condition. It puts them inside the set and it puts the others outside the set. And then top, you can create sets by, it's still a condition, but it just says top. So you can say top 10 by discount. So it looks at all the elements and all the values in discount, and it puts the top 10, it always puts the top 10 inside the set and the rest outside the set. So that's another way. But condition is really the most interesting one to me. So let's try and use condition to create a set called bad products. So by field, so it's saying that you're trying to create a set with the product names, but what field are you checking for the condition that you want to give? And the field I want to check here, because the condition is really about whether the product is a profit-making product or a loss-making product, is profit. The condition field is profit. So by field, profit, I'll search for profit. So what kind of evaluation do you want it to perform on the profit? Is it the sum or the average? Here we want the average profit on that product to be, now if you put it as equal to 0, that means a product that on average, it neither makes profit nor losses. But what we want is, for a bad product, it makes losses. So we want average profit less than 0. So you can change this. So you can see the number of conditions that are there. So less than 0. And then you can also input if you have a more complex formula, a more complex condition that this will not cater for, you can select by formula and then input the formula yourself. So basically this condition says that average profit for that product has to be less than 0 for it to fall into this bad product. So, okay. So, are you trying to ask a question? I just had someone talk. Okay, so let's plot something and then use the set. So let's show profit and category subcategory. So we wanted to highlight the products that are bad and ones that are not. So I want to use color. So we're going back to marks now. So you can see that all the ones that are in bad products are the ones that are blue. You can see that they're all loss making. And all the ones that are gray, oh, people are still trying to come in. So the gray area represents profit and the blue area represents losses. So that's a way that we can use this set now that we've created to just show us the products products that are blue would fall into bad products. The ones that are gray will fall into products that are not bad. In this case, it's a bit complicated. This example is a bit complicated because what we're showing here is subcategories, yeah? So categories, subcategories. And under the subcategories, we have several products. So some of those products are good products, some are bad products. So let's remove this and let's try and understand, because I know this part might be a bit complex. So bookcases, for instance, now, profit is 161,924. The sum of profits made from the subcategory bookcases, right? But a subcategory consists of several products within it, which some of them would be good and bad in terms of some of them will be profit-making products and others will be loss-making products. So what we're trying to see by putting bad products in color here is knowing that what's the distribution of, so amongst all these sales under bookcases that make up this profit, what's the distribution of the good products and then the bad products within these subcategories. So that's why so you can see that the products that made profits made a profit of 181,181, and then the products that made losses made a loss of 19,256. And then when you now reconcile the profits and the losses to get the overall sum of the profits, obviously it will be this minus this, and that's why we now have 161,924. So basically, this bad product sets that we have created that we put into color shows us more detail about how the final profit was, how we came about the final profits, in that what was the total amount of profit made from this category, from all the products there, and what's the total amount of losses, and what's the distribution of the profits to the losses. So you can use this set in other examples. So it exists the same way the group that we created you can use it for several things, several contexts. It's always there for you to be able to see the distinction. You can also use this set in other contexts. So that's the difference between groups and sets. Let me see. You can see that from what I said about sets being binary, you can see that it says in stroke out, meaning that it's either in the set, an element is either in the set or outside the set, unlike groups where we could have five different categories. We could have A countries, B countries, C countries, D countries, E countries. But for this one, we are given one condition, and if this element fulfills that condition, it's in the set. If it doesn't fulfill the condition, it's outside the set. So it's either or, as opposed to a group that is, you can create several buckets or several categories within the group. So that's the distinction between groups and sets. So yeah, I think I'm done. I don't know if anybody has any question.
Thanks, Dolapo. That was a very useful clarification between sets and groups. Did anyone follow along at any point? Does anyone have any work they want to share? Questions? We're pretty much at the end. If you haven't joined our Telegram, feel free to join. It's t.me/weavies. Okay, yeah, if you haven't joined our Telegram, please feel free to join. It's t.me/weavies. I'll post it in the chat box again. If you have any questions, please ask. If not, we will be ending this within a minute or two. Oh no, we didn't plan to talk about extracts today. But if you have a specific question, you can ask in the group and then we'll talk about it, so that we don't keep people on for longer. Kemi. Okay, guys. Thank you everyone for joining. And Kemi, I can see your question, right? Please join the group so that we can discuss it on the group.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you, Simi. Thank you, Zainab. Thank you, Dolapo.
Thank you. This was very insightful. Definitely learned something from everybody.
Thanks, guys. It was a nice time, as always.
As well.
All righty.
All right. Okay, you can still call after everyone has left and we can talk about extracts and servers.
Bye-bye.
So Kemi, you had a question about extracts, right? So in what context are you using extracts? I can't hear you, you're on mute.
So sorry. I'm actually working on a dashboard. So after building the dashboard, I tried exporting it to the server. But I'm looking at refreshing. I'm looking for a way to be so easy for me to be able to refresh the data. And I could see that there's like an option of you either export you either publish the workbook or you publish the data. There are different options when you get to publish from your desktop when I want to publish to server. So I try using the one that has me to publish extracts. So and that was kind of, you said?
Are you using a paid desktop license?
Yes.
Okay, and your company, you have a server?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so what part of that, when you choose to publish the server, what is the error? How are you doing?
It wasn't an error actually. So I published it, was successfully published. But when I now went back to my desktop, to the data source, so I no longer see the tables. So it was like I was just seeing only the name of the data source. So I was kind of confused because that's from like an extract. So I wasn't really seeing the table individually.
That is at the data source page?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was after I've published the extract to the server. So I don't really know what happened.
That's a strange behavior. So even after
okay, sorry, go on, Abby.
Server, right? When you go to the data source page, you should still see the tables, because when you would select your extract from your data source page. I don't know if you can share like a screen or something.
Okay,
but
just a minute. I might need to go to my system. Just a minute.
Zainab, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I was going to ask what the data source is actually, like what type of server. Is it a database? What is it?
Yeah, it's like an Excel extract.
Okay, it's
I
an
extracted Excel.
The Excel file, does it get updated like often?
No, I have to go in there to extract it manually.
So what I mean is that you said you wanted to like schedule a refresh. So on the server, you want your data to refresh at certain times, like you want to schedule the refresh.
Yeah.
So that means the Excel file, the data also gets updated at certain intervals.
Yeah.
So is your on your local computer, or is it
SharePoint?
SharePoint. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I think you have to publish data, and you publish the data source.
Yes. Okay, that's the issue. Is it that yes, when I'm publishing the dashboard, to ask me, then it has to be an extract before I can publish it. And by the time I publish it, that means I don't know how I need to go about refreshing it. Like if I want to schedule, I want it to be refreshing automatically after I must have updated the new table.
Or in your Tableau server site?
Yeah. Is that what?
Are you an admin?
Yes.
Because you can schedule your refreshes when you log into your site.
Okay.
Do you know how to do that?
No.
Okay. I can show you. I will send you something that would be helpful.
Okay.
Because for me, for example, we have like a database, Amazon Redshift, right? And when you when you extract like a certain table out of the database, right, publish that with like your data that you're working with, and then you set up incremental refreshes.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know what your setup looks like, but you should be able to set up like incremental refreshes from your server side.
Yeah.
Then another thing, I think basically the dashboard I built, I built it in different workbook. So I don't know if that can also be responsible for it.
No.
No, I don't think it matters. It will publish all the sources that, regardless of how many sources you have, or yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. So another thing I really want to understand how the extract works. So for example, I know that extract is like a copy of the data I'm using. So I'm asking Tableau to make a copy of that, and then Tableau saves it. So when it saves that copy, is it saving it on my local system, or is it saving it on the SharePoint, or is it saving it in the server? Where exactly is Tableau saving that extract is making?
Do you use Tableau server or Tableau online?
Server, not online, server.
Okay, so it's hosted on your company's infrastructure.
Yeah.
So it's not saved on your local computer.
Okay.
It's hosted on your company's infrastructure, like that's your server site. That's where your extract is. It's not on your computer.
So where does it go? Does it go into the server, or does it go into the SharePoint where I save the data?
I don't know how SharePoint works. Unfortunately, I have not I don't connect to SharePoint, so I don't know if there's a different way that SharePoint works. Zainab or Dolapo, I don't know if you can help me here.
Yeah, I think SharePoint is just like an whole drive, a shared drive, like on the same network. Yeah.
I haven't connected SharePoint to Tableau before, but I think that the extract is saved on the Tableau server, not
that is
like
exactly
your
where
SharePoint.
I'm going. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be on your company's like server, and the reason why is so that anybody can get the data from there. You can edit the data. You can do stuff online, so you can do that on your Tableau the company server, your company's Tableau server. So it's going to be saved on the Tableau server, and that is why you have to like export the extract. But for the refresh, you have to also publish the data source, because from the extract is sort of static. It doesn't have any connection. But for the refresh, you have to publish the data source. But I haven't actually tried to connect like SharePoint to Tableau before, but I'm pretty sure the logic is going to be similar. What will really help is if you can like maybe share your screen or something. I don't know if, we don't want to keep people waiting on this session.
Yeah, I'm going to try and share my screen. So the question I want to know now is, that means I have to do two publishing. I have to publish my workbook and also publish my data source. Is that what we are saying?
It depends.
Yeah, but you do it from the same.
If there's somebody else on your that wants to build their own Vs based on the data that you've published. You understand?
Yeah.
They're only viewing like a workbook that you've published. You don't need to publish the data source.
Okay. So
yeah,
but if you want,
when someone else in your team wants to build a visualization, for example, this Superstore data source, right? There is Abby and there is Zainab. We're on the sales team, right? I may have built like a different visualization, but that's not what Zainab needs. But she needs access to the table that has profit, region, profit ratio, because she wants to do something else. So I'll publish that data source for her, and she can log in online and build a visualization out of that data source.
Okay. Because the reason why I'm actually asking that question, the data already built it. So, okay, let me try and log on my system so that I can share my screen. So someone already built it. And when I went to the server, I noticed that the person actually published the extracts on the server. So I was now wondering, how did this get here? And how does that affect the refreshing?
It doesn't affect the refreshing. A published data source has nothing to do with, like, it doesn't affect your refreshes.
So when you want to refresh, do you go to the server to refresh, or do you refresh directly from the system?
You can
From
set,
desktop, I mean.
so when you're publishing, right, you can set up, when you go to your server and you've published the data source, right? For example, there are things called schedules, right, on server that you can see how the frequency at which it refresh. You get?
Yeah.
Can you, so do you
Yeah, I
have
can hear you. Sorry, my network.
server? Are you an admin
Yes, I am.
or is someone else? Okay, so you can go to the schedules section of your server site and look at the different
Sorry, I'm having
schedules at
network
which.
issue. Sorry, I'm not having network issue.
I don't.
Okay,
Really.
so
Happy.
I want to log on to Zoom so that I can try and share
Zainab,
my.
say something.
What did you say?
Zainab, say something.
No, I was saying that I don't think she could hear you earlier, but I think she's back.
So if I the server, I don't have the link, so I can't log on to. I can't connect to Zoom on my system. I don't have that link saved here.
Okay, do you want us to take this offline?
Yeah.
We don't keep.
Yes, please.
All right, so you can just send me a message.
Okay. Thank you very much.